Okay, so let's go to our first topic. So we'll talk about Google Docs. In Google Doc, are Google's equivalent to Microsoft Word. So if you use Word, you pretty much know exactly how to use Docs. Right? If you wanted to follow along with the class notes, right, you can just click here. Here's just an outline of all the things that I will talk about. So these are the points I'll hit while I'm actually demonstrating the Google Docs. These two files, so the document for editing and suggesting and document for commenting, you don't need to download those. That's actually going to be part of the class activity. So you're going to have to go to these documents and complete the task. Okay, so first things first, to actually open up a Google Doc or to create a Google Doc, we need to be in Drive. All right, so let's go to our Google Drive. However you're organizing your Google Drive, just make sure you're in whatever folder you want to put this in. So I'm in Google Apps, I want to be in the Docs. To create a Google Doc, I'm going to go to New. Then I'm going to go down into Google Docs. Right. This happens to be in a shared folder, so remember Google lets me know that I'm putting it in a shared folder, so permissions may be a little different than I want, so I always have to check that. It's always nice it gives me that message. Alright, so now here's our Google Doc. You can see it looks just like a Word document. A couple things to notice. On the left, the blue with the 3 full lines and kind of the half line, that's Google's notation for Google Docs. And if I click this, I actually go to where all my Google Docs are stored. So think of it as a Google Doc home. Okay, but all that stuff will be in my Drive too, but this just puts all my Google Docs in one place. I want to go back to my document, so I'll back tab. And you'll notice to the right of that, here's an empty space. This is where I can put the name. All right. So let's do class Google Doc. All right. So if I click out, then you'll notice now this is actually the name of my document. Right? And it gives me some choices here. I can start as important, or I can actually put it in a folder. Okay, to the right here, I have comments, which we'll talk about, and I have the share option as well. And this is just like sharing when we talked about it with our websites. All right, so here I can invite single people, I can have them comment, I can have them edit, I can have them view it. Remember, if I want to do more than one person at a time, I hit advanced, and then anyone with a link, I go to the change button, and now I can do the whole public can do stuff. Anyone with a link can do stuff, or I can turn off so no one can do anything, right? And again, I have these options. They can view, edit, or comment. So I'll hit save, and then I'll hit done. Okay, so those are kind of the top buttons here. Now, just like a Word document, I have menus. So the first one, I have a nice little file menu. So from here, remember Google's redundant, so I can share again. That's just the same as that blue button I clicked. I can create a new document, I can open a document, I can rename this document, right? Which seems weird because I can just go up here and click this and rename it. But again, Google does redundant things. I can make a copy, I can organize, I can delete this. Right? Some nice ones, I can download this. So I actually can download it as a Word document, right, or a PDF. I can publish to the web. Page setup, right? So this is going to come in handy in your Google Doc challenge. So let's click page setup. And now here you can see I can change from portrait to landscape. I can actually change the paper size and the page color. So I can change the background color. Right? I can change the margin. So let's change these all to 0.5. So now I have a background color of kind of this light blue, and I've changed my margins. If I wanted to, I can set these changes to default. Let's also change to landscape. That'll be part of your project too. So I hit OK. Now you can see it's landscape, and I have this weird blue color. So I'm going to change everything back. Let's go to page setup. I want a portrait again. I want the background just to be white. And I want these all to be 1. All right, so I'm back to my original. Okay, I have edit here. Here's what I can undo, redo. I can cut and paste when I start getting text. Right, so if I write some text, right, now you'll notice I actually have, it's highlighted. I can actually cut and paste. And just like Microsoft Word, I have shortcuts. So I can do Command X, Command C, Command V, right? Command Z. These are all the same as Word documents. I can paste without formatting. I can do all the good stuff. I can do find and replace, which is nice. I have different views. The print layout view, I can do different modes. So I can do editing, suggesting, viewing. I can show the ruler, all this good stuff. So just like on a Word document. So I'm going to show you 2 things. First of all, this mode. I can do editing, suggesting, or viewing. I want you to note that's the same thing right here, the pencil. I can edit, suggest, and view. Okay, so I can either do all that through this pencil, or I can go to the view button. Also, this full screen, if I click it, now you'll see my toolbar goes away. All right, if I want it back, I hit escape, and it's not quite the same, but these 2 arrows will actually condense your top heading bar. All right, so kind of the same. The other one actually got rid of all of my my shortcut buttons. If I hit the arrows again, then I'll get it all back. All right, so if you want to get rid of everything, do full screen. To get out of full screen, hit escape. Just like we talked about with our websites, you can insert things. We've already talked about images. It's the same process as when we inserted images on our website. Links, same thing. Right? When we insert links or we embed links, same exact thing as our website. Let's talk about an equation here. So let's insert an equation. So you'll see we get a nice little kind of blue box with a cursor. You may not have noticed, but we have a separate toolbar here. And this is all our mathematical stuff. So we have Greek symbols we can input. So let's do theta, right? And we can type just like we type on Google Docs. So let's do +1. We can do symbols, right? Notations here. So times, 2. We can do equals, greater than, less than, all these set notation signs. Let's say it's greater than equal to. And now I have actual mathematical notations. I can do a fraction. So when you do the fraction, it's very hard to see. So you'll see if I type in a 3, I need to get to under the 3. I need to do my cursor and click under the 3, but it's very small. So what I'd recommend is when you do equations, especially with fractions, increase the size, right? So increase the zoom. And now you can see I can click underneath. So if I had 3/4, and then anytime I want to get kind of out of it, I do the right arrow key on my keyboard. You can see now I'm no longer in the fraction. So anytime I want to get out of something, I just use my right arrow key. And you can see I'm kind of outside the box now. Do plus. Let's insert a square root. And like anything else, I can just type. You can see I'm still inside the square root. To get out of the square root, I just hit the right arrow button. And you can barely could see that the cursor kind of moved up. So now you can see I'm outside the square root. If you want to do superscripts and subscripts, so you just do, let's say, x. So here I can have both a superscript and a subscript. I can have just a subscript or just a superscript. So let's try the superscript. Right? And I hit 2, and you'll notice it didn't work. Okay, now this is exactly the process you should use for a superscript, right? Just what I showed you, but sometimes just this program is finicky. Like I said, Google is free, but they're new at this. So their equation editor is not as good as other equation editors. So you're going to kind of have to mess around with it. So what I did right there, look at my cursor here. So right down here, all I did was right arrow. You can see all of a sudden I am in the superscript. All right, so then I'll go back and do the 2. Is that ideal? No. All right, but sometimes that's just the way it is. So give Google a break. They're new at this, and it'll get better. And just for some weird glitchy reason, it's just not working well right now. But in a week it might. So I actually, when writing the equation for your Google Doc Challenge, I didn't have this problem. Just keep in mind, that's the nature of the beast. So we're getting a lot of good free stuff, and some of it's going to be wonky. All right, but that's how we would insert equations. To get out of the equation, just click out of it. You'll notice I still have my toolbar. So let's zoom back to 100. So to get out of my toolbar, I just hit this X. Okay, we can also insert. So let's get a little space. I can insert a drawing. When I insert a drawing, I get a separate drawing workspace. So I have actions. I can do word art. I can download. I can do all that stuff. I can snap to. And once I start getting drawings, this shaded stuff will turn solid so I can use it. I have undo, redo, I can zoom. So here I have my lines. I can draw a line. So I just click and hold and draw my line wherever I want, and I let go of the button and I get a nice line. So if I wanted to, I could do an arrow. Same thing, I click and hold and I let go. All this stuff. So I can do, elbows, I can do curves, polylines, which means I just connect into shapes. I can do figures, so I can do actual shapes. So here's a nice rectangle. I click and hold and I drag, right, to get the rectangle. I can also do other kind of interesting shapes. So I have clouds, suns, moons, lightning. Here's a smiley face. I click and hold and drag, and that's my smiley face. And then I can do arrows, I can do callouts, I can do equations, the symbols for equations. Right? I can actually do a text box. So I click and hold. And now I'm able to type in here. I can actually insert an image just like before. And now here I have my edits. Okay, so I can fill. You'll notice I just clicked out to get out of this. This is text. So let me get back in it. And when I click on things, you'll see I have the new menu bar. So I can fill. So a text box actually gives me the option to fill the text box. So if I wanted to make a different color, I could. And I can do that with anything that's solid. So I can do this, right? If I click the rectangle, I can fill this. Let's make it green. If If I click my smiley face, you'll see it's a full shape, so I have area to fill. Let's make it red. Right, so I can change fill areas, are only things that are solid shapes. So you'll notice this line, there's no fill, because I can't fill a line. Okay, but a line I can change the color of the line, I can change the thickness of the line, I can change whether it's solid, dotted, all that good stuff, the extra characteristics. And here I can change the endpoints. I can make it an arrow, I can make it a circle, all that good stuff. Okay, and same thing with the arrow. I have all those options. Right, so if I go back to my solid figure, you see I have those options as well. I can change the line color of my figure, I can change the width of the actual line, and I can change whether it's solid or dashed. Right, so I can do all this cool stuff. So always keep in mind though, you don't have the extra menu bars until you click on something. And then you can see I even have more. I can change the font, I can change all this stuff. Spacing, I can indent, I can do numbers and bold, all that good stuff. And I can clear all formats. Okay, so just like our regular Google Doc. All right, so to do a drawing, then I save and close, and it automatically puts my drawing into the Google Doc. And you'll notice if I click anywhere, this is all one drawing. Okay, and if I want to edit it, I just go back to edit, and I can keep it, I can wrap the text, put it in line with text, I can break the text, I can actually size my drawing. Right, by these squares, I can grab any one of these squares and size it. Right, so the ones in the corners are diagonal sizing, the ones on the sides are just vertical or horizontal. So that's how I can add a drawing. Then if I want to get rid of a drawing, I just click on it and I hit delete. Right, so I can delete all this stuff. So let's delete all this stuff. Okay, let's go back to insert. I can insert charts. Again, if I have a sheet, when we get to Google Sheets, then you'll see what the charts are all about. So let's insert a table. We'll do 1 row and 2 columns. If I want to change the size of the cells, I just go on the border, I click and hold, and then I drag either left or right, and I release the mouse button. And I can do that for either horizontal or vertical. So I click on the border, I'm holding the mouse button right now. Then I drag down, and I let the mouse button go. Okay, so once we've changed the size of our cells, or changed the dimensions of our table, we can actually edit the border itself. And unfortunately, there's too much stuff on my toolbar, it didn't show up. But if I click more, here are the buttons, the shortcut buttons that will change my border. All right, so I can change the actual background color. So the first thing I should mention though, see how my cursor's inside the table, inside this cell. So now whatever I do here will change that cell because I'm inside that cell. So if I change it to red, right, well, let's change it to kind of a lighter red. I can change the border color now. Let's change the border color to blue. I can actually make the border color thicker, or I can make it dashed or dotted. Okay, so I can change the border color itself. If I were to highlight more than one cell and do the exact same thing, you'll see it'll change both of them. All right, so that's how I can edit the borders. Unfortunately, if you want to get rid of a border, the little arrow key, that's what this is meant for, but it doesn't really work well. So normally in a Word document, if I were to hit this button, let's say the right border should toggle on and off. That doesn't work well in this case. So if you want to get rid of a border, your best option is to change the actual border color to white, and you'll see it'll get rid of the border. All right, so unfortunately that's a feature that isn't quite up to speed yet on the Google Docs, the changing the borders, the individual lines of the borders. All right, if you wanted to add rows above or below, right, you can just insert rows below. If you want to insert columns left and right, you can just insert columns. Well, let's get rid of our entire table. So it's a weird looking table. So let's go to table and I'll delete the entire table. So let's insert special characters. You can see now I have a whole list of special characters. If I want a special character, I just highlight on it and then click. You can see it just inserted the character. All right. And then I just hit spacebar 3 times and I got another set of characters. So again, sometimes these programs are a little wonky. Okay, if you don't see a symbol, you can actually search by drawing the symbol. So that's what this little area is for. If I click and hold the mouse button, and then I drag my finger around, you can see I can draw symbols. And then here are all the symbols that thought I might be drawing. So here's my infinity one. I can click and I get an infinity sign. So here you can actually search symbols by drawing your own symbols. All right, we click out of that. We can do a horizontal line, so a nice break. So we can insert page numbers, we can do top or we can do bottom, page count, a nice page break. So let's say I have this as text, and I don't want to hit return a bunch of times. I just insert a page break, and now I'm on my second page. All right, second page. So it's a way that you don't have to hit return a bunch to get spaces. You can do headers and footers. So let's insert a header. So I'll hit enter to get some space. I'll put it in the center. And I'll just type page 2. Okay, you'll notice with headers though, they'll be the same. So this says page 2. So whatever I type in a header will be on all my header pages, unless I click this different first page. So if I click this, you'll notice my first page goes away. Let's center again, and I'll put page 1. And now I have page 1 and page 2. So if you want to make the first page different, you click that button. But past that, all the pages that are after the first page will all be the same. So if I make a new page, so let's do our page break. You'll see this is page 3, but it still says page 2 at the top. So all headers after the first page header will be the same. And we can do the same thing for a footer. Okay, formatting, just like Microsoft Word, right? Bold, italics, underline, all that good stuff. I can align, and a lot of these are on the shortcut button toolbar. Okay, tools, I can spell, right? So do spelling. If I do research, it'll actually just pull up a Google search engine, right? So that I can type in anything I want. So it saves me from having to actually go to a different tab. I can define, so if I have a word I want to highlight and hit define, let's do text. And you'll see it'll pull up text, and I'll get a nice definition. Right? And if I wanted to, I type in anything I want, and it'll find it. Okay, so I can either highlight words in the text, or I can type them in. Word count, I can do voice typing, so this will be speech to text. It'll type while I'm talking. So let's get some space. If I click my microphone, now I turn it on. So this is speech to text, speech to text. Click it again to turn it off. All right, you'll see there's a nice little question mark, a help button here. So this will go through pretty much how it works. So to type, so that's how you start, right? Correcting mistakes. You can do language. You have voice commands, right? So you can format your document. So all these different kind of voice commands will help you format things. I will tell you, when I first brought it up, it wasn't working. So if your voice typing isn't working, it could be because your microphone's turned off. So if you're on a Mac, you want to go to Preferences, go to Sound, Input, and you can see my microphone was turned on. All right, so that wasn't the problem. And then I found if I actually Googled, voice typing not working, and then as soon as I went back, my document asked me if it was okay to use the microphone. So I would suggest if your microphone is working and your voice typing isn't working, either refresh, right, or just go to a different tab and come back and then see if Google Docs asks you to use the microphone, right? So it just didn't know to use the microphone. You can translate. Right, so if you want to translate the document, I can translate this into all of these. Doesn't make a difference, right? So let's translate it into, Czech. Then you can see it translated that into, Czech. You can have a personal dictionary. You can add your own words that you like. Okay, tables. So you'll notice we could insert a table here, or we actually have a table menu button. Add-ons, we're going to get to that as part of the class, and then you have a nice little help button. Okay, now here are our shortcut buttons, right? Here's print, we can undo, redo. Here's the format, so when it says paint format, so you'll see if I have, let's say these are all underlined. What I can do is grab this and then highlight anything I want, and you'll see it actually transferred the formatting. Okay, so that's how we can actually quickly transfer formats from one thing to another. Here's zoom. So our next drop-down menu are the styles, and so now here it's kind of like a table of contents, but the idea is if I highlight something, put a title, that's at the top level, and then subtitle would be kind of below it. So Google Docs kind of knows a hierarchy, right? And then heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, same kind of thing. This is the top level, and these two are under them. Right? So Google Docs will put certain text into a kind of a hierarchy, kind of like a table of contents. Okay, here are your fonts. So all your fonts, just like Word. All right, here's your text size. Then we get to bold, italicize, underline. Here's the actual text color. We can change any color. Here's the nice link button, right? So we can add links just like we did for websites. Here's another comment one. So now actually we have 4. So I can go to insert, right, comment. I can click this button, insert a comment. I can click this to insert a comment. And once I click this nice little shortcut button, I have to go back to the add comment, right? Or I can hover and you'll see I have a comment, add comment. So I have 4 ways to add comments. Here's align. Right, so I can align all my text, so let's align that in the center. Here's justify. So here's justify, just like in Word. So if I had more than one line here, and I justified, let's go to justify, you can see, and I go to justify, you can see it spreads it out so that everything automatically goes from the left boundary margin to the right margin. So it spaces it out. Okay, here I can do line spacing. So between lines I can do whatever I want, 1.15 single 1.15, I can double it, I can add spaces before paragraphs, and I can do custom. Here are bullets, right? So I can add numbering. Okay. If I hit return, I get number 2. If I hit tab, I actually indent, and I can keep doing this. Okay. I don't have to hit tab though. You'll notice I have these indent buttons. So if I have a kind of an outline here, and I don't want this to be a 1, I want it to be under the I, then I just indent to the left, and I can keep doing that. So you can see I go through again, right? So I can increase indent or decrease indent. The same kind of indenting, and so decrease, increase indent works with bullets. So I'm going to hit enter, enter, right? And I'm going to do bullets. You can see if I just type a letter, I have a new bullet, and I can indent, right? Or I could have just done the tab, or I can decrease, so increase, decrease. So the same thing that works with numbering works with bullets, right? Then we have a more, right? So the more, it depends on how wide your browser is, on how many buttons will be under more. So some of these could be under your more button. So if you ever get to a place, or you get to a dock where you can't see these shortcut buttons, then check the more, right? And then this one, if you highlight something and hit that, it'll get rid of all the formats, right? So it's a nice way to get rid of formats. Okay, the weird thing with this more button, you can't click out of it anywhere. You have to click the more button again. And then again, here's our editing. We can edit, suggest, or view. Okay, so now let's talk about the actual difference between editing, suggesting, and viewing. So obviously if I'm on viewing, all I can do is view. You'll notice I can't change anything. So I'm hitting delete, I'm highlighting, I'm typing, I can't do anything. So if I keep it on viewing, it's what it sounds like. The only thing people can do is view it. If I go to suggesting, now you'll notice if I double click on something to change it, let's say I don't want microphone, I hit delete, it actually doesn't delete it, it just shows on the document that this person, so JT and NWU, wants to delete this. Alright, so that's the suggestion part. It doesn't actually change anything, it just shows up on the document as wanting to be changed. Right? And then I have choices. So myself as the owner of this document, I can accept it. So if I accept it, it'll delete microphone. I can reject it, or I can just delete this suggestion altogether. All right, so let's accept it. So then you'll see if I accept it, microphone goes away. I'm going to do Control Z, undo. You'll see if I reject it, it rejects the suggestion. All right, so suggestion is nice so you can actually see possible edits. And then the third one, if you're on editing, right, which we were on the whole time to begin with, if I delete microphone, it just edits things. Okay, so depending on how you want to share these documents and what you want students to do with them, or what you would like to do with them, that'll let you know where you want to be. If you want to be in editing, suggesting, or just viewing. Okay, all right, last thing, let's add a comment. So to add a comment, you can just either, put it by a cursor. So if I click this, I'll add a comment, and it actually highlights all that text. Or I can actually highlight text itself. So let's say I want speech, then again comment, and now you'll see it's going to highlight speech, and I'll write my comment, right? Okay, and then you'll notice I can either cancel my comment or post. So my comment doesn't really go live until I post it. So I want to comment, and then that's my post. All right, so then whoever owns this document, again I'm the owner here, but whoever does own it, now will see these comments. You can resolve the comment, so once you actually, read it and say, oh, I get it, you can resolve it, which means the comment goes away. When I say goes away, it's off the Google Doc, but here in the comments, it always keeps a list. All right, let's do Control Z. I want that comment back. Oop, I'm not gonna be able to get it back. Let's do, okay, so let's do the comment. Let's add another comment. All right, let's post it. And I'll show you these 3 vertical dots. That always means you could do more stuff. So now I can either edit this comment. So once I post, I can go back in and edit it. I'll save it, or I can actually delete it altogether. Okay, so once you post something, you can go back in and change it. Now the last thing, if you ever want to convert a Word document to a Google Doc, All right, first you have to upload the Word document to your drive. Then you right click. You can see Open With. So I'm going to open with a Google Doc. Okay, and here you can see, just give it time, it's converting your Word doc to a Google Doc. All right, so now this is my Google Doc, and its name changed me to a Google Doc, right? .docx. I don't want that. All right, now you can see I can change things. All right, this has been changed to a Google Doc. All right, so now I can actually edit this. Whereas if I were to open the Word document, you can see I can highlight stuff, but I'm not editing. I can't change anything. You'll notice also if I open a Word document, I can convert it to a Google Doc from here. I can open it as a Google Doc. So I have two choices. Either I open it and then tell Google to convert it to a Google Doc from here, or in my Drive, right, I actually right click it and then open it as a Google Doc. And again, why change them to Google Docs? Because I can edit them anywhere that I have internet connection. Whereas if they're Word docs, I have to have my computer, right? I have to have my desktop with my documents. And then once I change them, I have to upload them again or do the whole manage versions, right, to change things. So it gets a little bit more complicated. All right, so that's Google Docs. Okay, so now what I need you to do for this class activity, go to my website, and now I want you to go to, let's get rid of some tabs. And in this document, I want you to do two things. First, type your name, and then next to your name, type "This is my contribution." So in the second cell, the cell to the right of your name, I want you to type a short sentence and then make a suggestion. All right, so for example, I put Tikin. I want you to type "This is my contribution," and I wrote "Dogs are people too," but then I misspelled dog, so I made a suggestion. Okay, now here's the trick to it. So in the mode we're in right now, which is editing, if I were to have double-clicked dogs and wrote DOGS, it would have just made the edit. You wouldn't see green dog, and you wouldn't see a line through it. So make sure if you're going to write suggestions, you have to be in the suggestions mode. So you can't be in the edit mode. So that's my tip there. So if you find you're editing things, you're in the wrong mode. All right, so that's part one of the class activity. Part two, I want you to go to the document for commenting. And then here's your name, find your name. I want you to highlight your name and post a comment. All right, so post a comment next to your name. So you have two kind of classwork activity assignments. One is to post a comment by your name, and the other is to do a suggestion, right? Write your name, type in some text, and then make a suggestion. Okay, let's go to the assignment. So the Google Doc challenge here. So what I want you to do is recreate this Google Doc exactly. Right, so this is in landscape, right? So first, and I want you to type all this in, right? I want you to write document name, and then I want a colon, but then I want your name. So type your name, then I want you to write page. I want it to be in landscape, so I want everything that's on this page to be on your Google Doc. Okay, the only difference is where it says your name, you're going to type your name. And then I also want it to be in landscape. I want the margins, top left, right, to be 0.05, and I want this text in blue. I want the background to be light blue, so it has to match my background. Right? I want this table, so you'll see here's a 2x1 table. Right? Then I want first number line, second number line. I want you to number them. I want them in this color. Then I want an indent in text. Then I want split indent. Then I want some bullets. I want you to insert a link to any document. Pick any document you want. I want you to insert this picture. And if you go to my website, here's the picture. It's the same, my dog that we did for our websites. I want that picture. I want you to do the equation. I want you to add a drawing. I want you to include a comment on the drawing, so kind of highlight the drawing and put a comment by it. I want you to write all this and format the text, so underline, strike through, superscript, subscript, all that good stuff. I want you to define epistemology, and you're going to put the definition right here, right? Not the whole definition, just the first 4 words. I want you to research, so I want you to tell me what's the first company that appears when you research waterlogged, okay, and put that here. And then I want you to change all the text in the document to Calibri, and I want it to be size 12, with the exception of the equation. All right, so I don't want the equation or its text to be size 12. All right, and then make a suggestion edit on this sentence, so type this sentence and make a suggestion edit somewhere. Then I want you to download this document as a PDF. I want you to share this document with me, so give me permission, right, the JTIC and NWU. And then I want you to create a navigation bar on your website named Google Docs, and place a link to this document and the PDF version right under that navigation bar. All right, and that's your Google Doc challenge.